If your teen is scoring much higher on at-home practice tests than on the actual SAT, it can be confusing and disheartening, but it usually comes down to a couple of specific reasons. And look, most families and students see a great practice test result and they assume that they'll see the same thing on test day. And the confusing part is the practice test score isn't fake. It was a real score, they got it. But again, a strong practice test score doesn't mean they're gonna get the same thing on test day. And this is true for a couple reasons. Look, one SAT is about 100 questions, but 100 questions is a tiny, tiny sliver of the thousands and thousands that College Board could conceivably ask you on test day. So a practice test is really useful information, but it's limited information. It's basically telling you how good you are on a tiny fraction of all the material. And then on top of that, there's the reality of test day itself. Obviously, if you're taking a practice test at home, the pressure feels way lower. If you're taking the actual test, the stakes obviously feel much higher. And that's compounded by the sort of emotional roller coaster of taking an adaptive test, where if you're doing well, questions can get much harder very quickly. So when the results come back and the real score isn't as good as the practice test, you might think there was something wrong with the practice test. Maybe it was too easy or graded differently, but it probably isn't that. The good news is that all of this is usually fixable when you understand what's actually happening. So mindset shift number one is realizing that one good practice test doesn't mean mastery of all of the SAT content. And that can often take more preparation than families expect. So real preparation isn't about just doing well on one practice test. It's about building enough familiarity, flexibility, consistency, that performance stays stable across many different question sets and testing conditions. And we need to tackle that through repeated official practice, realistic timing that simulates also the stress of test day, stronger review systems, and in all likelihood, multiple test dates, multiple official test dates. Because in addition to simulating the pressure of test day, which we can do to some extent, the biggest way to get over those nerves is to actually do it. And that's why students statistically, on average, do better their second time taking the test. Because it's not just that they know more content, it's that they learn how to perform when the score actually counts. It's that they're better at handling that pressure and applying their skills when the scores actually count. If you're in this situation and you're worried whether your teen's practice is going to translate into test day, message me PREP, P-R-E-P. We can take a look at it together.